I'm very grateful, and I will say I'm very grateful from the bottom of my heart. I have so many wonderful people helping me with this, whether it's Jill and Jared going to help me design stuff, my dad, my country boy dad going to help me with stuff. Like, I mean, I have a lot of great people in my life, and I'm very thankful. I'm very fortunate, and I'm really excited, and I hope that this episode encourages people my age or whatever age you are that it is possible to build a home, and it's actually pretty fun.
You're listening to the Isn't That Rich podcast, and we're your hosts, Jill Franks
and Ashley McVicker. As young females in the banking industry, we love simplifying the confusing yet everyday questions you have about money.
Like, how do I get my finances in order?
Where is my money really going?
How do I invest for my future?
How do I make my money work for me?
Can I really afford to buy that new home?
These are the questions that keep us up at night. And the truth is, no one was born knowing how to handle their finances.
And chances are, walking into a bank to ask for help seems intimidating.
Whether you're a single person in your early 20s saving for your first home,
or you're an empty nester wondering what to do with that extra spending cash,
this is the podcast for you.
So I am excited today because this is the first part of a series, and it's going to be an ongoing series that we do because our very own Ashley McVicker is building her first home.
My first home.
And so today we are going to talk about the first steps, the beginning steps of what the home building process looks like.
All the preliminary stuff. And it has been way more than I could have ever imagined it would be. But it's exciting.
It's so exciting, Ashley. Yeah. And before we get started and get into the, get our feet wet with this whole home building process, I want you to kind of explain your story about how you decided to build this home.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, when I moved back from college and started working and saving money, it's so funny looking back. I was like, after 2 months of living with my mom and dad, I'm getting an apartment. That's the thing to do. That's what everybody does. And then, you look around our area, and we live in an area where we have, some really nice 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartments for $1,200 to $1,500 a month around here, but not really any nice, like 1-bedroom, 1-bath or anything suited for me. Like I couldn't ever find anything that just was for me.
Right.
And so I was like, I just don't know what to do because I don't really want to spend a bunch of money renting. And, we use that analogy all the time, just like if you rent, you're throwing money out the window. And that's not entirely true in every case. There are times when you need to rent and times when you need to buy. But I was like, I don't think I really want to rent right now. Like it's just, I don't need to. And so I decided, I'm going to stick around at home for a while. I have really great parents that take really good care of me and allowed me to stay home and save my money up. And so just throughout that process, I was thinking a lot like, what do I want to do? Do I want to build a home? Do I want to build a duplex and rent out the other side? Do I want to rent? Like just went back and forth all the time. I mean,
there's so many options.
So many options.
To build a home versus renting a home. And I feel like you did a really good job of weighing the cost and benefits
right.
of
And
both.
I went back and forth like so many times. And then also, of course, I kind of entered the job force when the economy was going crazy and just life was shut down almost. So you almost couldn't even go get an apartment or go buy a home because you weren't even allowed to leave your house.
Right.
So just a lot of things were coming into play for me making this decision. And it definitely did take a long time. I don't think building a home is a decision you make in one day.
Or take very lightly.
No.
No, this is something you've thought about for a while, and now it's time.
Yeah, and I'm somebody that I don't want to just ever jump into anything. I want to make sure it's something I can afford and it's the right decision for me and it's a good investment, because whether you're doing an investment property or just buying a home for yourself to live in, it's ultimately an investment because you're paying yourself back into it. And the way I kind of, decided that I wanted to build a house is I really just had to, and we talk about this all the time, is like your values and just what you want and your goals in life. And I was like, I just want my own small little home that I built, and I know I can do it. And I am very fortunate, and I will say this. I have wonderful parents that own an excavating business, and my dad is super handy and has all the connections. And so I was able to talk with my parents about all the pros and cons and how much stuff costs and what it actually takes to build a home and all those types of decisions. So I'm very fortunate, and I will say that I do think I have kind of a leg up in things.
Absolutely. I mean, your dad is, and your mom too.
Yeah.
I mean, the connections they have within the community that have helped you in this process so far. And we'll get into that in a minute when we start talking about it. But yeah, I would say
they really helped me. And my dad and I talked a lot about, maybe you should build a little duplex or something and that. But I ultimately just had, what they encouraged me to do was just, what do you want to do? It's not about us. We'll help you with whatever. And we have great people that'll help you. But what do you want to do? And I was like, you know what? I've looked at the market. I've looked on Zillow. I've looked on Realtor. I don't love any of these houses to really fix up. And that was another option as well. And I think that's a great option too. But I just decided, I think I just want to build a small 2-bed, 2-bath house.
Which is so cool. And it's very needed. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but I feel like the resale value is going to be so great if you ever decide to leave this 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Yes. But there's not really any product out there in our community like this.
Yeah. And so I also think this is a part of the preliminary process is why I'm talking about, these decisions I've made is because a lot of people that I would talk to about building a home, if they build a house or whatever, they're like, well, you definitely need to do 3-bed, 2-bath. That's resale value. And all those things are great to think about. I'm not saying you shouldn't think about resale value when you're thinking about your house. And I have thought about those things, but I'm like, okay, square footage costs money. I've learned that. That's something I've learned in the preliminary phases of this. So if I'm going to build a certain square footage size of a house and then have all these different rooms in it, you're sacrificing space for resale value. And I mean, Lord knows if I ever even sell the house. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. And so those are just things I had to think of. So I was like, you know what? What does Ashley want? It doesn't matter what someone down the street says about resale value, even though it does. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
No, for sure.
So, so those are like all things you kind of have to think about. It's this, what do you value? What do you want? What is important to you? Lots of things you have to think.
But that's half the battle is figuring out what you want and you decided on a 2-bedroom, 2-bath and it's just a 1-story.
1-story. So let's get started. Once I started how do you build a house? I start learning all of these things. So I learned that, you have to have a house plan. First of all, you have to have a house plan to build a house and you have to have property.
Right.
Those are 2 things. So that's really what this episode is talking about, is working through those things. And so the first thing you need is property. Once again, my case may be a little different than other people, but I was fortunate that my parents parceled me off some property. They parceled me off 1/3 of an acre, a decent sized lot to build your first little home on. I'm very thankful for that. I'm very fortunate. But that comes with a cost. It's not just like someone cuts you a piece of property and then here you go.
So what is this? So they are deeding you a small parcel of their property. So they had a bunch of land in Heron or where you're building this in Southern Illinois, and they gave you a piece. And I want you to talk about that process, what that looks like, because it was not easy.
Yes. So they parceled me off a piece of land, which means they had a big plot of land and then they had to go get it cut basically and put in my name. And so my parents had to do their part of it, and I don't know their part of it. I just know that they got it parceled. And then what I had to do from there was a lot. And it was so funny the day I called you and I'm like, what am I getting myself into? Like, this is just crazy. And so it's 1/3 of an acre. It's 100 by 150 feet. And you just have to do a lot with this little piece of property. And so I got a plat map. That's the first thing you receive when you get your stuff parceled off, your land parceled off, is a plat map.
Okay. And who has that? Where did you find a plat map? Did you have to create it? Does the city have a plat map? Like, where did it come from?
Okay, so it comes from an engineer.
Okay. See?
I know. So it comes from an engineer. So an engineer has to come out and survey your property. It's called a survey.
Got it.
Okay, and this survey costs $1,300.
Okay, so we're already spending
I'm already spending money.
Okay.
So I'm fine to pay all that. I paid the $1,300 to get this surveyed. So an engineer has to come out and look at the property, and they'll stake it from corner to corner, and they measure it. And so anytime you guys, if you get on the GIS, and so that's where you can look at everybody's property lines. And so that's where that information essentially ultimately gets entered into is like the GIS, so you can see your property lines, right?
So the county, just to stop you, what a GIS is Geographical Information System that the county keeps, and it has everybody's parcel of property recorded on it. It's where you can look, I mean, you can click on and see who lives where, what their taxes are. Exactly. So you went to so that's where this plat goes, is to that.
Ultimately, it'll show up on the GIS is what I'm getting to. And so an engineer has to go out there and do the measuring and all the crazy things they do. And then they're like, here's a bill. We put stakes in the ground for you. There you go. Here's a big piece of paper with other kind of property lines, and then your property line and your measurements and all the things. Because eventually you're going to take this to the people building your home. Because they have to know exactly where to build your home. Because, I mean, if a piece of brick is on Joe Schmo's land,
you're encroaching on their property.
This is very bad. Yeah. So already from the beginning, just learning stuff about literally from the ground up is the best way to learn about a house. And so I did that. And I had to then go get this the survey recorded at the courthouse.
So you take this survey that you got from your surveyor, paid him a bunch of money, you're going to go get it recorded.
Yes. So I had to go to the Williamson County Courthouse, which is the county I will be living in. So it's my Williamson County Courthouse. I had to take this big piece of paper to them, and I had to get it signed by quite a few people.
Okay.
So I'll have to look on my list. Okay, here it is. I had to get it signed by the county clerk, and you're just crossing your fingers and hoping all these people are at the courthouse.
And this was not an easy process.
No.
Once you visited the courthouse. Okay, so you have to get it signed by all these people. Did you know how many people you had to get it signed by when you went there?
Yes, I did, because you can roll out your survey and all the signature lines are on there. So thankfully you know who to get it signed to. But I mean, if it was just up to me and I didn't have my mom kind of bossing me around telling me what to do, I would have been like, yeah, man, I'm ready to build.
Yeah.
You have to have people sign off on it that are officials in your city.
Okay.
So, and then you have to make sure the people at the courthouse are not on lunch. When you're on lunch, you got to go there. So you have to have your county clerk sign it, and they have a stamp. And then you have to have a plat officer sign it, and they have a stamp. And then you have to have your town clerk sign it. So mine was Energy. I live in Energy, the village of Energy. So my village clerk had to sign off it and stamp it.
So you're at the county, and then you have to go back to the village, it sounds like. Or is that village clerk or your county clerk or city clerk at the courthouse that you were just at?
No, I'm sorry. She's at City Hall in the Village of Energy.
So
there's two different buildings. I apologize.
Okay, so let's just kind of backtrack here. First you go to City Hall. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, you go to the county, Williamson County Courthouse, and you get this stuff signed. By who? The clerk and recorder?
So we have to get it done by your county clerk.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And she's our recorder. So ultimately she records this, but I'll get to that in a second. So I take this big piece of paper with all these signatures on it.
Yeah.
And actually, I will say I had my village clerk sign it first. So I had to take it to City Hall in my town.
Okay.
And so her signature was on it. And then I went to
Williamson County Courthouse.
Williamson County Courthouse.
Okay.
And so when I went to the county courthouse, I had to have the county clerk sign it. I had to go get in the elevator and go upstairs. They make you run this all over the courthouse. It's the funniest part. Like, they won't just pass it back. Like, you have to go do it. Yeah. So I got in the elevator, went upstairs. The plat officer had to sign it. So he signs it. And then you have to take it back downstairs, and they have to check the liens on it, see if there's any tax liens on
the actual property.
On the actual property before they'll officially record it and sign off on it.
Okay.
So they take it, and you wait there by the security officer, and then they come back out, and they're like, you're like, Mom and Dad, I hope you don't have any tax liens on this property. And so, and then they ask you for $90.
Okay, so you're $1,300 with the surveyor, and now you're paying $90 for the signatures.
Yes.
On the plat map.
To get it recorded. Just to get my survey recorded.
Okay.
So I'm not even to getting my property recorded. It's just the survey of the property. It's just the engineering of it.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're not even there yet.
Okay. Keep going.
So after I got this recorded at the courthouse, I took it to an abstract company.
Okay. And now what does an abstract company do?
So glad you asked, because I was like, why do I have to do this again? I thought it was the same thing. So I went to an abstract company. We have a lot of abstract companies around here, and they deal a lot with the bank. So thankfully I kind of had like an in, and it was easy to get in contact with them. But I took them my survey, that big rolled up piece of paper with the signatures on it.
Right.
And they then have to give it to a lawyer.
Okay.
To create a deed for me. So I haven't even made a deed yet. This property is still not mine.
So it's still in your parents' name until
Still in my parents' name.
there's a deed created for
Yes.
it.
Yes.
Okay. And so the title company or this abstract company
Yes.
is going to hire their lawyer in your behalf.
Yeah,
to do
and
this.
what I've learned is they do it a couple of different ways. Some of them hire a lawyer out. Some banks own title companies and will have a lawyer working for them there.
Okay.
And it all ranges from $100 to $200 to get a deed made is what I've noticed in our area.
Okay.
So I just went with a title company that we kind of work with at the bank. They were great. And I just had to bring my survey in there, that big rolled up piece of paper. And I had to ask them to create a deed for me, meaning they were going to say, these people are deeding this property to this person, and get all the signatures on it. And then you have to take that deed and get it recorded again at the courthouse.
Okay. So now you go back to the courthouse.
So they made a deed for me.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had to get the deed to me. I had to sign it, and then my mom and dad had to sign it. And then you have to get it notarized by somebody. And we have notaries at the bank. So Amber notarized it for me, and they have to put their stamp of approval on it saying this is legitimate. We notarize it. So then I have this piece of paper. And actually, I paid the abstract company just to take care of it for me. So I wrote them a check, and they got it recorded for me at the courthouse. So I didn't.
Oh, that's nice.
They just work with the courthouse because they're right there. And so I didn't have to go run up and down the stairs again and try to figure out
lunch hour and go do all that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was good.
Yes, but you're going to the courthouse 2 rounds if you're getting property deeded to you. One is to record your survey, and then the other is to record your deed. So you have to get your survey done, and then you have to get your deed.
Okay. So now you have your deed, and the property is yours.
The property is officially mine.
Okay.
Yeah, and so my abstract company was, I think it was $150.
Yeah.
So just another fee. So right now I'm $1,300 for my survey.
Okay.
I'm $97 for my survey recording fee, and I'm at $150 for my deed.
Okay.
Okay.
And now it's time to think about what you're going to put on your property, right?
No, actually, I was going to say you have to get another permit. You have to get another piece of paper.
Okay.
That I didn't realize. It's just more money. So you have to get a building permit in your town. And how you do this is you go to your city hall.
Okay.
And you say, I need...
you're going to build.
Yeah, you can email them. I emailed my city clerk and said, I'm going to build a house. This is where I'm building it. I need a building permit questionnaire is basically what they email you. And you fill this out, and you have to know like your electrical box information and really weird things that I can't remember right now. I mean, you'll know what they are. They weren't that hard, but I was like, wow, you guys need to know all this stuff. And then you have to send in your house plan.
That brings up something for me because on a fresh piece of property, they don't always have utilities hooked up on them.
No.
But did your property have utilities hooked to them? Or
Yes.
Okay, thankfully.
Yes.
Because that would have been
water
a whole
and sewer
other process that you would have had to have done.
Yes, water,
Okay.
sewer, and electric. So if you are ever looking for property, it is very important for you to ask, is this connected to water?
Utilities.
Yeah, utilities.
Yeah, electrical and water.
Yeah, and sewer.
And sewer.
Yeah.
Okay, so yours had those things on it.
Mm-hmm. thankfully. But then they ask you what your address is. And so I was kind of in limbo because I was like, I don't really know what my address is because I'm still waiting for this property to be recorded at the courthouse and I don't know who to call. But they were great, and they were really sweet people there. They worked with me. And so I just had to send in my house plan, and then I had to fill out that building permit and then email it back to them. And then they have bi-weekly meetings at City Hall. Okay. And they approve or deny your building permit.
Got it.
And they approved mine and then just emailed me back. But that was $25. I had to pay them $25. So another fee involved. There's all these little fees involved, which I get it. I mean, yeah, it's understandable. But here we go. So I've got all that done. Well, you have to know what you're building. Right? Because you have to send, like I just mentioned, you have to start sending in your house plans to stuff because people want to see what you're building and if it's in the covenants and all the things.
You're following the rules.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of going to go backtrack. Like I talked about, it takes a long time to decide whether you're going to build a home. It takes a long time to decide what kind of home you're going to build. Right. Especially when you're starting from scratch and you don't know how much things cost. Right. And I forgot to mention this. I'm acting as general contractor. So I'm doing this all on my own. So I'm doing all of the scheduling. I'm getting all the bids, and I don't have a general contractor. So I'm not paying somebody to build my home for me to save money. I'm building it myself, which it's not super hard, but it's just a learning process because I've never done it before and I'm not a contractor.
And this is the advantage of using a contractor is that they have all these connections. They know who to use as a plumber. They know who to use. They probably have this whole system down as far as going to the courthouse and recording and doing and whatnot. They probably have that down to a
everything.
T. But if you're looking to save money and do it yourself, you don't have that. Yeah. And so you're acting as that, and you're doing this process yourself, but you're learning so much.
I've learned so much, and I haven't even put a shovel to the ground yet. I love it. It's fantastic. I don't want this podcast to sound like I'm dreading any of this. It is super fun. Yeah. And it's super informative, and it's really great. I love to like go into a new industry and see, how people do things. It's really quite interesting. So, where was I? Yeah. So I had to get a house plan. Okay. And it's so funny because me and my mom and dad went back and forth on this all the time. I was like, I would draw things on a piece of paper and be like, why can't I just do this? And my dad's like, well, do you know where the plumbing line goes? And do you know how much concrete you're going to need for that? And do you know how tall your ceilings are? And do you know how tall your walls are? And do you know where your pitches are and all this stuff? And I'm like, no. Don't they know? Like, so they're like, you have to have somebody. If you're acting as general contractor, you have to have a legitimate house plan. And it's 4 sheets, and it's going to show where all your plumbing is, where all your roof lines are, your pitches, your wall height, your concrete. I mean, every little thing to give to all of these different contractors, your subcontractors. So your roofer, your plumber, your electrician, your framer. Yeah. All the things. So I was actually on Pinterest, because you can buy house plans anywhere. Like you can buy them off Pinterest. You can buy them off, like there's like American Home Plans, I think is a website I was on a lot. There's tons of house plans all over the internet. And so those they cost money. And I believe they'll give you a full house plan too. But I was like, there's just so much you have to consider. Like where your house faces and what kind of property you're on, and
do you put the garage in front of your house or to the side back? Or
and is this, so you have to think about your property. So mine's 100 by 150. So how much property do I want to have on each side of it? And
plus there's setbacks from the city and ordinances and stuff like that. So you just need to really be
then again, things cost money to add a prettier, crazier roof line, right? Because you're having to turn these gables and I'm just learning so much. I'm like, I am just a first time home builder. I just need the simplest house plan ever. And I don't want to use the word cheaper, but it's cheaper. I mean, to build a very straightforward rectangular home with a very simple roof line. Yeah.
So where did you end up going for that? Did you go straight to an architect? Did you find something online? What did you end up doing?
Yeah. So I was researching a lot, and I actually watched a video on YouTube of this barn dominium that I really liked. I was like, because I talked about how I wanted 2-bed, 2-bath.
Yeah.
And I was researching a lot of 2-bed, 2-bath homes, and there's actually not a lot of house plans out there. I looked on Zillow all over the United States for a 2-bed, 2-bath, whatever price range, and could only find like 50 in the United States for sale. It's crazy. It's really weird. So I think I'm on to something maybe. But my parents knew an architect, and they were like, hey, he's done some work for us before. Just go to him. It won't be outrageous because, I'm like, I don't know how much it costs for an architect. You hear architect and you think crazy expensive stuff. And so I emailed this architect and I was like, hi, can you do a house plan for me? I don't exactly know what I'm doing, but I just need your help. Super nice. I used Kurt Orso from Architechniques in Heron, and I'm sure there's a ton of great architects around our area. That's just the person that I knew, and he was just like, yeah, if you can just send me what you're kind of working with right now, and then I will put something on CAD and kind of start it, and then we'll start the process from there. It'll be $750 for a full house plan.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I didn't think it was that. And the ones on the internet are $750 to $2,000.
So you're actually working with a live person, a professional in your area, rather than doing that online.
Right. And what I didn't realize would be so important in this process is I'm glad that I went with an architect in my area and a real person and didn't just buy something off Etsy or Pinterest, was because now I've had so many of my subcontractors calling my architect, asking questions.
So he kind of plays that role for you.
Yeah.
Where you can just kind of field the questions to
I'm like,
him.
just call Kurt, please.
Yeah.
I have no idea where this furnace is supposed to go.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's good. So so far you've had a great experience with your architect. And so you have your plans and you had to submit that for your building permit.
And throughout that process, we would email back and forth, and I would say, move this, move this, move this, move this, and do very detailed instructions about what I wanted. And it's just so funny because I moved the sink to my island and I was like, don't move it back. And
you're like, I don't want it there.
Yeah. So, and also I will say this, I just did everything. And what I mean by that is more things on your house cost money, like I've been saying. So if you're getting a back porch with a concrete slab, it's going to cost you more money. So I just, instead of saying, oh, I bet that costs money, like I'm trying to save money, I'm just not even going to put that on there. I got it put on the house plan anyway, because after you get your house plan, you can talk to your contractors. And if you're like working with your budget and you're like, I just don't think that I can afford this back porch right now, let's just not do that. They're able to tweak your house plans, and so it's not a big deal. So
you can come back and do phases as you can afford things.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And if you need to move your windows, like a window, anything, you just say, I want to move these windows here. Or if you want to cut off your garage completely, they'll kind of help you. Your builders will help you, work with you to realign all of that. So that was relieving to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm about $2,000 in with just the preliminary stuff before a shovel even hits the ground.
Okay. My goodness.
I know.
It's an investment. And that's not and you're blessed that you had the property deeded to you, rather than paying thousands of dollars, $20,000 for a third of an acre. You had a leg up and only paid $1,300 for the recording and the survey and so that's good.
Yeah. And also my property will be used as collateral against my construction loan.
Okay. Do we want to get into that or just?
I don't want to get into that just yet, but
okay.
I do know that you do have to use your property for your collateral.
Yeah. So what comes next? So you did this preliminary work. You've got your building permit. What's next?
Yeah. So it's time to get bids.
Oh gosh.
And you have to get bids for two reasons. One, to pick which contractors you want to build your home, and then also for your loan.
Okay.
So, do you want me to start with the loan first?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So the loan requires you to do what? You have to have your house plans. You have to have, what goes with that? Well,
so I'll be getting two different types of loans. So my first loan will be a construction loan, and then my second loan will be permanent financing.
Okay.
And so a construction loan, you apply for it like a regular mortgage. I mean, you would but they know you're going to be building. And so I'm not going to get super detailed into that part, but I do know you need some things before you get started. So one of those things you have to have is all your bids.
Okay.
And so when I talked to Polly about this, I'm like, why do I have to have bids? And she's like, well, that's how we're going to see how much your house is going to cost. And so we can see how much money we're able to lend to you. I'm like, okay, makes sense. And so she's like, there's kind of two ways you can do it. Since you're acting as general, you can get all these individual bids on your own, compile them, and turn them in. And you just have to have them on their letterhead, like so if it's Jill Construction, plumbing, I would have your letterhead and your list of the things you're going to do for me and then your total cost.
Okay.
And then I would turn that in to Polly.
Who is our mortgage lender?
She's our mortgage lender, yes. Or you can do another thing called a turnkey bid. And so turnkey, they use this in construction a lot, I've learned. Turnkey means like literally you put the key in the door and you turn it and your house is ready. And so it means basically everything's all together. It's turnkey. It's
full package.
Full package.
Got it.
It's the best way to describe it. So you could get one turnkey bid from a contractor, a general contractor. So I actually did ask a general contractor I gave him my house plan. I emailed it to him because I have a file size of it too. And I have the big rollout papers too. And I said, can you give me a turnkey bid for my construction loan? I need to turn this in. And so I have a general contractor working on a turnkey bid for me, but I also am getting all the bids in myself.
Okay.
So I can turn in either one of those when I start my loan.
Okay. The reason you're doing it both ways, are you just comparing costs, or what's the difference between getting them all yourself and having this general contractor do it for you?
Honestly, I will probably turn in the turnkey bid because I would imagine since they have more experience than me, they're probably putting every single expense in there. Yeah. And also they're putting their price on it. And so my price is probably going to be less because I am acting as general. Theirs is a little inflated because
they're going to have the work too included. Their job. Yeah. So that makes sense. So you would turn that into your lender to get your construction financing.
So do your application. So you have to turn in your bids. You have to turn in your house plan. You have to turn in the last 2 years pay stubs from your jobs. My deed from my property as collateral.
Okay, so you're putting your property up for collateral with this loan.
Yeah, and so basically that means if I default on my loan, they're going to swipe that from me.
Yeah.
Have fun going to the courthouse, Farmer State Bank.
Good luck recording that. No.
Yeah, and so also too, I will say I haven't done my construction loan because I'm still getting my bids in, and your pre-approval lasts for 90 days, which I would be fine at this point. I'm going to get started shortly, but those are things, numbers and times you have to keep in mind because you're on a time crunch. Also, bids run out of time.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Okay, so you get this bid for your home from a construction company, and that's on a time frame.
Yes, because material prices change. They fluctuate.
Yeah.
And so, like my concrete bid I just got in, it says at the bottom, this bid expires 6/10, something like that. So it expires in June. And so if I don't sign the paperwork and say, hey, right now, because concrete prices fluctuate just like any other material prices. And so that's been interesting. So I'm kind of trying to figure out all this time stuff, get it together. It's not super hard, but you just have to make decisions on people. So I'm in the process of finishing my bids and then deciding on who I want to do each part of the house.
So that's where you're currently at right now.
Now. Yep.
You're finalizing your contractors, who's going to build your home.
Yep. And then I'm going to turn all that into my mortgage lender and get started, hopefully.
Oh my gosh. Well, I feel like there's been so much to this preliminary work already, Ashley.
So much. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of learning. Yeah. So, and I also will just say, if you are a young person, I feel like a lot of people think it's out of the question that you're able to build a home. And while I did say I am very fortunate, I'm ahead of the game in the property, it's not that bad. And this is what I will say about it. This is my final thoughts after this preliminary episode. For our area, we don't have a lot of homes for sale right now. So that kind of puts me in a bind, because if I did want to buy a home and fix it up, I'm going to be buying an 80-year-old house with 80-year-old roof. And at the end of the day, I'm probably going to be putting just as much money into a fixer-upper home at this point than I would just building it from the ground up. you're going to spend a little bit more. I'm not trying to lie to anybody or anything like that, but
you're going to have exactly what you want.
Yes.
That this home is going to fit you and your needs.
Yes, absolutely. And so I'm very excited. When we come back with our next episode, we will have more information, and hopefully I will
be breaking ground,
and hopefully the framing will be up and I can give everybody another update. But that is what it is like to start building a home.
Well, great. And do you mind if we link some of your contractor's information in this episode and kind of give the breakdown of the steps in the show notes a little bit for what's going on so far?
Yes. And I will say this was more conversational but yes, we can give kind of a breakdown of the process,
so
more specifics, kind of the timeline and all the people you have to see and run to and go to and run your papers around too. So,
well, thank you so much for sharing your story.
You're welcome.
This is personal to you, so I really do appreciate it. I think people will get a lot from this, especially if they're thinking about building a home or building a vacation home, whatever it may be. This is the first step.
Yes, I'm very grateful, and I will say I'm very grateful from the bottom of my heart. I have so many wonderful people helping me with this, whether it's Jill and Jared going to help me design stuff, my dad, my country boy dad, gonna help me with stuff. I have a lot of great people in my life, and I'm very thankful. I'm very fortunate, and I'm really excited. And I hope that this episode encourages people my age or whatever age you are that it is possible to build a home, and it's actually pretty fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley.
You're welcome. So Jill, where do we go from here?
Be sure to check out our show notes for this episode, and also be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our newsletter. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.